Since my last video on Halloween Kills, the casting updates have not slowed down one bit. Last time we talked about how Anthony Michael Hall was joining the franchise to play an old character, that being Tommy Doyle, and since then Kyle Richards has announced that she's coming back to play her character of Lindsay Wallace. Personally, I think it was smart to announce Tommy Doyle's actor first, with so many different actors coming back to the franchise, especially in Halloween Kills. Announcing a newcomer to the series is just good optics in my opinion. What I mean by that is that it's clear to me that when David Gordon Green is picking out actors for the roles in his movies, he's not just picking people who played these characters in Halloween 1978 because they're the people who played them. He's picking the best actor for the role. Brian Andrews, the original actor for Tommy Doyle, is a great example of this. If you look at his career, he hasn't really kept up with acting since the original Halloween, but if you look at Kyle Richards, in contrast to that, she's had a pretty big career in reality TV and other TV shows and even movies, so bringing her back to play Lindsay Wallace is probably a pretty safe bet on David Gordon Green's part. But at this point, with so many characters coming back, it's pretty clear that David Gordon Green wants to bring back literally every character who was left alive at the end of Halloween 1978. And if you don't believe me, just take a look at Jamie Lee Curtis's Instagram. But taking that idea and running with it, today I thought it'd be fun to use the pieces we have and try and figure out what the story is going to be in Halloween Kills. As far as the high level stuff goes in Halloween 2018, the idea there was that after the first movie, Laurie kind of just moved out into the middle of nowhere and gave up where her life was going to protect Haddonfield from Michael Myers if he were to ever escape. She obviously tried to find companionship a few times in Karen's dad and then in Karen, but at the end of the day she realized and she really felt that she had to take on Michael Myers alone. Unfortunately for her, she's not a real person and she lives in a movie that made $250 million, so at the end of the day she failed to accomplish her goal of killing the Shape, but she gave it a pretty good effort. On the filmmaking side of things, David Gordon Green and Danny McBride went into last year's movie trying to make it as simple as possible and to really bring it back to its slasher roots that started with John Carpenter. But now that they've proven they know what they're doing with last year's movie, they've taken all that creative leverage they've earned and they're applying it to Halloween Kills to really blow us away by doing something new. And as far as people like Kyle Richards coming back to the franchise, it's not exactly hard to see why they'd want to. The first and arguably most important reason being that Halloween 2018 was a critical and financial success after years of mediocrity with a few standouts. And yeah, while they might have been skeptical about coming back a few years ago, there's really no downsides to doing it now because it'll not only get their name back into the spotlight, but they'll probably make pretty good money doing it. So with all the info we have now, I really think Halloween Kills is going to be about Laurie learning the Shape is supernatural and she can't take him on by herself. A major theme in Halloween 2018 was showing us how the people who encountered Michael Myers 40 years ago took the trauma he inflicted on them and dealt with it, and I think they're going to continue that trend in Halloween Kills, but this time with Tommy, Lindsay, and now Allison. And speaking of Allison, I think there's going to be some conflict brewing between her and her grandma in Halloween Kills, because not only did she alienate her only daughter in the pursuit of killing Michael Myers, she wasn't able to save any of Allison's friends in doing so, which would make me pretty upset, and I'm sure Allison is going to be upset herself. But this time around, instead of taking on the Shape herself, Laurie's going to learn that she can and actually needs to rely on other people to be able to kill him, and that's going to be some character growth for her that we didn't see in the last movie. The big reason for that is that the major downside to burning her house down on top of Michael Myers is that she's effectively starting from scratch. She doesn't have any of her guns, she doesn't have any of her ammo, literally every trap she had created for Michael Myers is gone. She burned it all down, so she's gonna need to go to Karen and I guess Tommy and Lindsay and Allison to ask for help. And in my last video I guessed that Halloween Kills is gonna pick up right at the end of Halloween 2018 and Laurie is gonna be taken to the hospital where she'll find out that Tommy Doyle is now a doctor. I still think that's the case and I actually have some proof to back it up thanks to Blumhouse's casting calls. The first big clue comes from the fact that Blumhouse is looking for extras who are trained EMTs, police officers, and most importantly, firefighters. That backs up my theory that the movie is going to open up at Laurie's burning house and that the firefighters are going to come put it out and then they're going to be searching through the rubble and they're either not going to find Michael Myers' body and have to go tell her that yeah, she didn't kill him, or he'll be there and they'll bring him to Haddonfield Memorial Hospital. That being said, I'm crossing my fingers for a time jump after that because I don't really want to see a Halloween movie that isn't set on or around Halloween. On top of that, they're casting a ventriloquist who can bring their own puppet, which is kind of weird. They also want identical triplets who are over 18 years old, and finally they want cars from the 60s or 70s. Starting out with the 60s and 70s era cars, what that tells me is we're going to be seeing a flashback of a young Michael in Smith's Grove soon after he killed his sister in 1963. One idea I had for why they'd need triplets or a ventriloquist is because there might be a harvest festival or carnival of sorts in Haddonfield, and they definitely need performers at something like that. Of course, we already had a Halloween dance in last year's movie, but it didn't really have a fall feel feel because it was just a bunch of kids in costumes dancing around to colored lights. Like, it didn't feel like a Halloween dance in any way. So in my mind, a harvest festival with people walking around eating caramel apples and drinking apple cider and eating cider donuts while Michael Myers is stalking through them and absolutely slaughtering them sounds really cool. It sounds like an evolution of that scene when Michael was tearing through the street while kids were trick-or-treating in last year's movie. Filming is supposed to start in Wilmington on September 13th, and I don't really know if that means the leaves will be changing colors by then, but I really hope they dial up the fall feel to 11 this time around. They ended up shooting a lot later in the year for the last movie, and while it did feel like fall, arguably more than any other Halloween movie, except ironically Halloween 6, I just really like to see them dial into the Halloween feel. The one fear I have with all these characters coming back for Halloween Kills is that Michael Myers will kind of get lost in the shuffle between the drama. Halloween 2018 had a pretty small cast, and moving between the characters was actually pretty easy because they kept putting themselves right in the Shape's path. If they do bring Michael back to Haddonfield Memorial Hospital, I think that would be pretty cool for at least the intro of the movie, but then they run the risk of repeating things we've already seen in the franchise after they already cut out Halloween 2, so I don't know if that would be a great idea. There are a few people who are still upset that Halloween 2 was cut out, so if you bring Michael to the hospital and he starts killing in there and it takes up a big chunk of the movie, you're gonna get people comparing Halloween Kills to Halloween 2 instead of judging it on its own merits, and I don't think Blumhouse or David Gordon Green really want that. Regardless, since we already know that Halloween Kills is the middle movie of a planned trilogy, I feel like it's just gonna be table setting for Halloween Ends, and that could go one way or the other, but I'm actually really excited to see what they can do. Of course, we have no idea what's gonna happen in the movie because they haven't even filmed it yet. I just thought it would be fun to speculate because this stuff is just fun to do. If you haven't yet, you should definitely go check out my Horror Explored video on the Blair Witch Project. It's a little bit different. Actually, it's a lot different from these Halloween updates, but I think you're gonna want to see this video because it's making people leave comments like the ones you're seeing on screen right now. It'll be at the end screen of this video and down in the description, but the easiest way to find it is just to go to my channel page and it's right there on top. Anyway guys, that's all the Halloween news I have for you today, so as always, my name is Jimmy Champane and I'll see you in the next one. Shape on.